I'm always trying to convince my wife that when I'm laying asleep, laying on the sofa with my eyes closed, I am actually working.
So Terence, why are you designing?
Because I love it. It's just fantastic. Historically, designers live to a ripe old age, so as long as I don't get run down by a bus or something, that bodes quite well. So I think it's your vision of all the things you've seen and done that are outside of your discipline, you know, and I think that's very important to look outside your discipline, otherwise you look, you know, you just recreate what everyone else is creating. So, the table started as a conversation, you know, like we're having a conversation now, and it's like two guys that wanted to work together and thought, well, what can we do, you know? And John was a Formula One racing car designer.
Yeah.
He was the first man to design a Formula One carbon fibre car way back in the 80s. And it's fabric, you know, they make it from fabric. You don't think of a racing car as being made of fabric, but it all comes in cloth on a roll, and some very skilled people tailor it just like, you know,
like a jacket.
Just like a jacket or a dress, and it's exactly the same way of thinking. And I came back and I had dinner with a couple of the directors from Establishment Sons. I said, you know, I've just come back from this factory, and they said, why don't you ask him to collaborate? And I thought, well, that's a great idea, but, you know. And I thought, well, what was the worst thing that could happen? He'd say no. So I asked, and John said, oh, you know, I've been dying for someone to ask me, and been dying to do something in furniture. So that's how it happened.
But what was the basic idea? Was it like, okay, we want to make the thinnest table ever?
No, the basic idea was to take a normal table, 4 legs on each extremity, and push it as much as you can with the material. Just push the material, experiment with the material, and take the material as far as we possibly can. So wouldn't it be great, you know, if you look at the definition of a table, it's a horizontal supported surface. Well, let's just make it a surface. Let's just that. Let's get rid of thickness. So the thinness, only the thinness, I mean, we'd like to have it even thinner, but it gets to an impractical stage where, you know, you don't want to take off a child's head if they run into it. So we felt that 2 millimetres was about as far as we could go. That was the minimum anyone would want to go. And still, when you look at it, it just looks like a surface supported stretch between 4 legs, and that's what we wanted to achieve. And then
it even looks invisible on like the side perspective.
Exactly. And even when you see the underside, because the underside's so reflective, it reflects the floor. So in some photographs, it just disappears completely. It takes on its surroundings and it just disappears.
Yeah.
We started experimenting with different materials to how to achieve this, and carbon, because of its weight, meant that the legs could be very slim, because it's not just the thinness of this, it's also getting the proportions right with the legs. You could achieve this in another material, but the legs would have to be chunky because of the weight of it. Because it doesn't have such mass, it doesn't create this oscillation that you would get. So we knew that carbon fibre would achieve that.
But are you planning to work with him again? Do you have like new projects?
Yeah, we got 2 projects on the go. We've enjoyed working with each other, you know, and we're working on a chair for the table, which is kind of similar aesthetic.
It's the same material?
It is the same material, but it's not all unidirectional material, because the unidirectional material is right for this, for the chair. You know, we use whatever material we think is right for the project. And we're also working on a folding bicycle, which is
great.
Very Dutch.
Yeah. We like that.
You like bicycles? You like your bicycles?
What would you love to design if you could have a chance, like anything?
Love to design?
Like something you're thinking about like since 10 years but never occurred to realize it?
Hi-fi, because I just think they look so awful. As most people design them to have massive presence and to say, haven't I got a lot of money, or haven't I spent an awful lot of money on my hi-fi system, whereas I'd like to do it much more restrained.
How would you describe your personal style in one word? Is there something like that will fit to Terence?
No, I mean, there's no real one word, really. I mean, if I'm anything, I'm a modernist. The manifesto could come after the work. I think to write something and then become a slave to it seems a bit daft to me. I'd much rather be
If you leave it open.
absolutely free. Yeah, I've got my manifesto. It's a blank page, you know, and that's it. Yeah, it's a white sheet of paper. In fact, what made me work as a designer was visiting an exhibition in the Stedelijk. Is that correct?
Yeah,
the pronouncing?
Museum,
In Amsterdam.
Yeah.
They had an exhibition on the Bauhaus and Oskar Schindler, and it
Yeah,
just blew me away. It really blew me away because up until then, I didn't go to art school or anything like that. I really studied as an engineer myself. And I thought it was just so exciting. It was so different to what my parents lived with. And
What did your parents do for work?
my father was a stonemason and my mother was a housewife. So there's no real design in my background.
But totally different question. You lived in so many countries. What's like your favorite?
My favourite country?
Yeah.
My favourite country is the one I haven't lived in.
Okay, the one?
Well, I know. It always seems more exciting to go.
To go to new places.
I think with every country you end up with a love-hate relationship. You know, you love certain things about it, and I've always had a love-hate relationship with India. You know, and I find it so exciting and so interesting, but I also find it so ugly, and so distressing and so depressing.
But because of what?
Because of the poverty, because of the way people struggle to rise above it. Equally, you know, the philosophy and the history and the humanity that comes out of the place is also inspiring. So it's, you know, these incredible contradictions. I mean, every country is contradicting if you look at it, you know, deeply enough.
Okay, great. Do you have like a major influence, like a designer, which is like an icon for you? Somebody who like changed the world and you really like him?
I think the the person I admire the most probably, I mean, because I'm jealous of his time, his period, is Charles Eames. Because it was just a very exciting period, you know, at the end of, or during the Second World War, you know, so many materials were developed. You know, die-cast aluminium, plywood, fiberglass, lots and lots of other steels. Lots of materials were developed then, and he immediately turned them into very, very beautiful, useful pieces of furniture. So that was really quite... In fact, it's very interesting because John Barnard describes Formula One as war without bullets, which I think is a nice thing, you know, because they are fighting each other, you know. And if you think the last few years, you know, with McLaren and Ferrari fighting each other, and it's quite interesting because John has actually been design director for Ferrari and design director for McLaren, so he has a very good view on the whole thing. But you know, they do develop new materials, and it's interesting how they do filter through, and you can use them. And I think it's very useful to experiment with them. So we'll hopefully continue to do so.